Okay, so we will start with the second presentation. Yeah, just a little introduction. I totally didn't prepare, but just let's introduce now Robin. Robin Pokorny, our colleague from NewStore, and he's going to do a very interesting presentation on Jest, right? React Native Jest, kind of, no? Yeah, and you will do some coding live, as I understood, so it's going to be a lot of fun.
That can have two possible sides.
Coding is fun, so yeah. Right. Okay, so enjoy. Robin Pokorny for you guys. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Robin, as been said, and I'm going to talk about asynchronous testing in Jest. And yeah, maybe asynchronous testing asynchronous, whatever you want to call that. I will use these terms interchangeably. The thing is that I think it's one of the most overseen features or like parts of testing JavaScript. We, as developers in React Native, we have to work with async functions because async is infectious. When something starts to be async, everything that's using that has to be async as well. By async, I mean anything that executes in certain way parallel, not linear. It can be callbacks, it can be promises, it can be async away, whatever like technical feature you're using. You still want to test it. You want to be confident that the code you write does what you want, and you can have these nice, stable structures of your code, and you want to be confident that these structures will remain nice and great and stable. But I think that testing async is tricky. I want to say hard, but maybe hard isn't the word. It's really tricky. It has some pit points, you know, it's very easy to fall in them. And I've been like helping, I was following very closely the Jest development of async testing, and I have some insight, and I saw what problems can cause. So here I will do some live coding, because I think it's more fun, hopefully for all of us. And I want to show you what can happen when you do async and what maybe you wouldn't think of, because the testing framework doesn't tell you that. I will be using Jest. Is there someone who doesn't know what Jest is? Okay, cool, that's great, that's great. I mean, yeah, we are React developers, you know that. As I said, Jest has had some really recent development regarding this. And I think it's one of the best I've seen. I actually don't know how much the other frameworks handle that, but from what I remember and read, it's not that great. But, okay, let's go to that, and I will show you something you will be amazed of, I hope. As I said, there are many ways how we can define asynchronous, and I want to start with callbacks. Is this readable for you? So I will be having a watch server on the left, and I will write some code on the right, and we will see what it does. So one of the that's not good. One of the first things is like have something that calls a callback. Let's just start with this thing. So let's create a function foo, and that says it gets a number n and a callback, right? And all it does is just calls this callback with the number, basically, and apply. Right? If we want to test it, we want to test the foo. What we do, well, we can write something like foo, call it with, what's your favorite number? Okay, thank you. I heard 7. 7 is okay. So I will call it 7, and then, as the callback, I will pass a function that will test that it was called indeed with this number. So I will write, I will receive this number n, and I expect this n to be, 7. So I call that, I save it. Yeah, you see I have prettier, I changed my code. Yeah, it's passing. That's kind of easy one, right? But this code isn't asynchronous per se, right? We're just calling something in a synchronous way. If we wanted to make it asynchronous, right, we would probably need something like, so we still have a function that takes n, it takes callback, but instead of running it immediately, we will set timeout. I don't know, 200 milliseconds maybe. We have some fast connection or something. And then we do the same. We just call the callback, right? It should be almost the same. Let's try the same code and pass just these two small changes, right? And yeah, it works. What does it? So, okay, let's take something more interesting. Oh yeah, it fastly passed. That's suspicious, right? What was your other favorite number? 42, right? Oh yeah, it's the pass. Yeah, because I mean, you all said the same number, as I see. 7 and 42 is the same. Well, it's obviously not, right? This code isn't executed because Jest doesn't wait for you. It doesn't wait for your slow timeouts. So what do you need to do? I mean, there are numerous ways. One is that you will pass, like you will receive done function as the first argument of the test function. And you run this function when you are done. So now when okay, let me put the 7 there. So we see it passes. And it took some time. You see it took 200 milliseconds. That's probably right because this is 200 plus some overhead. That sounds good. Let's put 42 in there. Save. Wait. Oh yeah, it failed. That's cool. It took just 5 seconds. Yeah, that's not fun, isn't it? So what was the problem? We never actually called the done function because this expect failed before that and nothing happened. So Jest was waiting for this done function to be called. It has a threshold of 5 seconds, this Jasmine default time interval, which is 5 seconds. And yeah, then it failed because nothing happened. We can make it better. We can make it better because you can pass a third argument. You can have the name, this test function, and the third argument is to override this interval. So if I write 500 milliseconds and save it, now it will fail in sooner time. So that's cool. It's probably not what we wanted, but at least now we get the error. Is there a way how to fix this one? Maybe something without the done. Can we do that? Well, it's pretty tricky. One thing we can do, and that's kind of recommended to do, is that we can have this thing called expect assertions. And you can say that I expect that the code will run one assertion, and when it does not, it will fail. Right now it doesn't show us much, but in other cases, let's see, I don't know, it can be really helpful. I mean, I don't see it here how it helps because it doesn't without the done. Yeah, but that's a good one. I think that the most important thing here is that you have to wait for the threshold to finish if you have some problem in it. We don't want to do that, but I mean, with the callbacks, it's really tricky. What we can do, let me see if I want to show something else. No. The expert assertions would still work because if I don't put the done there and I wouldn't have it, yeah, I still have it, right? I still have to have it, otherwise it wouldn't be synchronous. So, yeah, we still have some, it's the same, sorry. Yeah, you don't need this. But it's good to have it because with these asynchronous functions, as you've seen, it's possible that some expects will not be called at all because this will not finish in time, for example. This function can somehow prevent that. We will see more about that in the next thing. But before that, let me go back to the presentation. These are things which will help you testing callbacks. It's expect assertions, I said. You probably want to use done, and there's not much way around that. And you should use custom timeouts, otherwise it will fall back to those 5 seconds, which can, like as you saw, take forever if you want to test some simple code, which should be fast. Another possible way how to do asynchronous code is promises, and that's much more interesting in Jest. And that's probably what you want to do. Okay, let me create a new file. Right. Okay, let's start with something simple. We have a test, we have a promise, what we can do. Have a promise, right? promise resolve to 7, we said, why the 7 number. And what we want to do is then, definitely then, test, oh, can I write? I receive a function and I will write it this way. Expect n to be 7. So this is basically the same code we had before, right? I will save it, and it passes. But you saw it before. This code is not actually like it still passes even if it's not true. I mean, maybe I get something in here, I get some information. You see that. But if it was running on CI, you wouldn't see this. The result is pass. I mean, that's very important to understand. Jest will not fail because of that. Well, that's a trick around that, but okay. What we can do, first we can do the same thing we did before. We can make it asynchronous, we've done, save it, and now, yes, now we actually get that error. No, sorry, we will have the same problem. It will fail on the timeout. We can again make it, I don't know, sorry, 200 milliseconds to wait, but that's not fun. The good thing is, with promises, we don't have to do this. With promises, we have something to be run after something happens, right? And it's called then. So we can add another then, and we can say that after this is done, that's kind of what we say, then done, run done, but we also want to catch an error. And therefore, there's a shortcut for it. It's called done.fail. So you can run this done, but you can also run done.fail to produce an error. When I save that, you see I get a fail, and I get information that I expected 10, but I received 7. That's exactly what we wanted, right? Now it works pretty cool. You can have multiple promises like these, but the problem is you can only run done once. So if you want to have more of them, you would have to do some tricks. The good thing is that with Jest, you can make it a shortcut, and Jest will do this for you if you return a promise. So if you return a promise, it will do exactly what I did with the done. It just will look what you return from your function. If it's a promise, it will do this magic with done and done fail, and it works. Problem with returning promises, again, is the same. You can only do it once. If you want to have multiple of those, so let's say I want to run this function twice, right? I kind of have to make it an array and just use promise.all and then save it, and then, yeah, both of these are run, and if any of those will fail, you will receive an error. What is this? Oh yeah, sorry, my bad. I see that now. Mismatch of brackets, isn't it? Yes, cool, sorry. As you see, now it fails. Any of those you have will fail, but it's not that very elegant, is it? But the fun becomes what happens if your promise doesn't work as you expected, right? So let me copy. What is this? Let me copy this one and just try it with one, and because promises can be rejected as well, right? And it kind of depends how we handle that. I will always write this return so you get used to it. Obviously, you don't have to use it if you use the double arrow functions, but I will do that so you see that. And now what happens if for some reason this code doesn't get resolved, but it gets rejected with value 0, right? I save it. Oh, yeah, we have an error. That's good. That's good. It fails. That's what we wanted. But now, what if we want the promise to be rejected and we want to test for that? Because we pass, I don't know, some wrong parameters and we want the promise to be rejected. So we probably write the same, but we write the catch here and we expect it to be rejected with 0, right? Okay, let's save it. It passes. Do you see the problem? The problem is that if this promise, for some reason, get actually fulfilled, resolved with 7, will this catch it? Will this test fail? Because we want it to fail. And it turns out it does not, right? This catch is not run at all. So therefore no expect is done, and no expect in Jest means it's fine. So now I can actually use the expect assertions, and I kind of expect that this thing will be run. When I save it, it runs, and now I have an error. It's kind of a weird one. It says I didn't get the expected, but at least the test fails. I get some feedback from that. I see that it doesn't work as I want it to be. Another option would be, I will show it to you just so you know, you can also write .then here, and then whatever happens in here, you just do something that doesn't, that's not true. You can say expect false to be true or something, or something like that, right? Yeah, now you get actually 2 errors, but you don't care. The thing is that this got called. Yeah, that's it, right? Yeah, so it will work. But I think that the assertion is much better in here, and it actually shows what you want to do. This then magic can be kind of problematic because, for example, if you did it after the catch, it will be called either way because catch kind of stops all the errors and only good code is following. So I will keep this one, and I will make it like work correctly. That's it, right? Yeah, everything passes. So as far as you've seen, the biggest problems are that you will not get any errors, even though you should have. Yeah, I think that's all I wanted to show. Yeah, yeah. So this is the promises. It's not nice, but if you like kind of are careful, it can work. So first thing Jest does for you is that if you return a promise, it will do this magic with done, and you don't have to think about anything else. The problem is, if you don't write the return, it will be a valid statement. And it will be, if you don't use the assertions, it will be a passing test, which you don't want to have. As you see, the problems we had is that when we expect a promise to be fulfilled and we only care about the value, which I've seen many tests, like they only test that the value is correct. But if the promise for some reason is rejected, the code can fail without errors or without failing, and even worse, when you want to have a rejected promise and it's not rejected, it's kind of more difficult to catch this. So you have to think about these things. What about async await? Will it help? Well, it does a bit. I will again create a new file so we have it separated. So basically, async await, if you have an async function, it is like it was if it returned a promise, but you can do some more things, and it's more readable, and that's important. So let's write a test for async, yeah, cool. And I will write async function that, well, we can do const n is promise resolved to 7. And then I can, okay, sorry, I have to await this, right? Await this promise, and then I can, as I would, expect an, I don't know why I don't have the auto-completion here, to be 7. So this is the code, which is really similar to what we kind of have here, right? We have the and. It could have been done like this, and it reads pretty well. And of course, when the thing is not awaited, you will get these errors like better, because async returns the promise will be rejected if this promise is if this is rejected, or even if I don't know, if I write reject here, it will again be like taken care of, right? It still fails. This error message, it's not good, right? Reject 7, failed 7, that doesn't tell you much, but at least it fails. But again, you have to go to it, you have to read it, you don't know what's happening. But you can have multiple of those without like much problem. So if I create like a variable m, which should be 42, I can easily test it to be 42. And the code reads more like a normal structural code. So you don't have to see any magic. So this kind of works. That's okay. What about rejections, right? So now we have the case that I want the promise to be rejected for whatever reason. And I want it to fail if it is fulfilled. So it's basically this use case, right? So let's see how you would write that. I don't want to write things again. So it will be rejected with, for example, 0. We kind of don't need to assign any n because we kind of assume it will fail. It will produce an error. Oh, it's error. So let's do try block, right? So what we do here, we assume that we will catch an error. So we expect e to be 0, right? And it passes, right? It passes. It's not very short, right? It's kind of wordy. What happens if this thing gets resolved? It passes, yeah? It passes because we will never get to this catch block. It's the same thing over again. So we can add the we can copy this line, right? That's probably what we can do. Now you finally see the true power of that. I save it, and again I have an error that something wasn't done as it should be. There's another way which I kind of don't like that much, but obviously you can do the thing I showed you before. You expect true to be false. Maybe you can write something more, like something that would. Oh, sorry. So the good thing about this is that you know where it happened, because for some reason you can write here some line 5, right? And you see this kind of debug message there, so you can know, like, if you had multiple of those, where it happened. It's not nice. It's definitely not nice, and I don't recommend that. But at least you get some information where the thing happened. And how it works is that if this thing passes, it will come to this line, which will fail and give you the information. It's ugly if you see it on the right, on the left. It's ugly, yeah. But it works. Yeah, I think that's what I wanted to show you. Yeah. So all these things work, and it's been not very fun, right? So again, the advantages of async await is that you can have multiple assertions. Again, the magic is kind of handled for you because it returns a promise, just handles promises, it works. Again, the unexpected rejections are kind of tricky. You still get, like, at least you get some errors if you have unexpected rejection. If you have expected rejection and you receive unexpected resolve, you will not get any errors again, and you have to somehow work around that. And the second case is very wordy. I mean, this try catch block is not that readable. You know, it's maybe you have more things in that and you don't know what's happening. So I don't actually like that. But there's a solution, and that's what I wanted to show you. This is kind of a new thing. I think. Okay, let's start with this. So do you know what these things have in common? Yeah, they are old, right? Do you know how old they are? Yeah, all of them are 20 years old. Like, all of these started in 1997, right? It's all they are 20 years old. And Jest has a version 20. What a coincidence. Okay, Jest 20 was released 2 months ago, and it includes some, I would say, attempt to solve this, what I showed you. And there were long discussions. I mean, if you love to read through some GitHub issues and to read like people fighting, you should see that. But finally, there was a solution for that. I kind of like. It has some problems I will point out, but let's see. I will not show you how it's called. Okay, now I have to create a new file. I cannot name it as you are. It was a surprise. This is how you spell it, yeah, I guess so. Yeah, so let's start with the. I will copy that. I'm sorry, I'm bad at typing things. It's kind of let's do kind of this case, right? That's kind of what we want to do. Maybe not this one. Yeah, we have a promise. We expect it to be resolved. So if you were to write it yourself, you kind of don't expect Dan to do something. You expect something about the promise, right? That's what you care about. And then you do something, and you expect this to be 7, right? And these 3 dots in here kind of symbolize that I want to take the value, if it was the correct rejection or resolvement, and then compare this value. And that's exactly what it is. So you write, no, you don't write that. You write dot resolves. And that's it. So this special matcher, it's a matcher, you call on expect. So you put a promise inside expect, you put dot resolves, it will check that the promise has resolved, and it will kind of take the value it returned and pass it to the next matchers. And the good thing about that is that here you can like chain anything, right? You can be not to be, I mean, whatever you want to match snapshot, whatever you like in Jest. So any matcher will survive. Okay, I will run that so it works. Yeah, it doesn't work right here. You still need to return that because, again, with Jest, if you don't return a, okay. Oh yeah, sorry, my bad. It's waiting for the done. Yeah. Either way, it wouldn't work without the return statement. But again, this is the trickiest part, right? You see, this passes. This still passes. That's the same thing as with promises because it actually kind of is a promise. So I didn't want. So you see one of the problems, but we will see how it's better later. Again, if for some reason this is rejected with whatever value, now you kind of get a much better error message. It says expected, received, promise to resolve. Instead, it rejected to value 0. That's what you want. Now you know what's happening. This thing, where it is, what it is. This is the best thing. You know what happens and where, right? You can obviously do the similar thing if you want to have reject to 0 because yeah, 0 is what you reject. Oh, maybe yeah. Okay, let's try this not thing, right? So now it will fail because it's not resolved. It's the same thing, and instead of resolves, I can write rejects. I save it and I have it, and again, and now this is actually what was difficult before. If this is a result, right? Yeah. Again, expected to receive, promise to reject, instead resolve to value 0. I have all the information. I just have it. I mean, just the message is great. I mean, that's all I need, right? I can do better. I can do better than that. I can combine many of these together and create an async function. And instead of these returns, I can evade them. So I evade this one, and I await this one. So now both of them are run. If either of those is, okay, yeah, I mean, okay, obviously not like that, but this one fails, and this one fails as well. And with good messages, it's readable. I think this is like a really good thing. This is probably what you want to do. And as I said, there were many discussions, which that's interesting. That only matter, I mean, the discussions were about this part, right? Because it's naming, and naming is hard. People wanted to have like, there should be parentheses, so it should be like this, or not. Should it be written differently? It's like a third person singular verb, the correct verb, or the correct form to use, and things like that. But in the end, it doesn't matter. I mean, and honestly, the word resolve is wrong. It should be fulfilled. If you know what promises mean, it is actually fulfilled, and that was what I was arguing about. Yeah. But people argue that we are used to this resolve. And that's what we have. I think that's where we come to. So let's go to the keynote. And you see it's dot resolves and reject measures. So the good things, it has more errors. Well, I mean, what it means is it actually catches the problems. The problems you might have overseen, this will catch it because it's more verbose. But it's shorter. It has better error messages. That's like the number one for me. You know what happened. You know what failed, what was expected, what didn't happen. And yeah, it's much more readable and short. So for me, it's really good. As I said, this thing has been introduced in just 20. It will not work in anything else. And I think I hope that you have learned something, that you maybe are thinking, oh, is that function actually doing what I think it is doing? Or maybe, like, you will come home and say, oh my God, my unit tests are not testing things. So yeah, I will be having beer and think about you, if that's comforting somehow. But otherwise, yeah, please use that. Please let me know if you don't like that. And maybe if you have better ideas, the Jest is a very open project, and it will accept that. I believe, yeah, we have time for questions. So do I have to work with my microphone? Yeah, I guess so. Sorry, yeah, I saw this first.
Thanks for your talk. I just wanted to point out or ask...
You probably need to speak more closer.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, that's better.
I just wanted to ask, is this API resolves reject is not similar, or if not very close to the same as the API from Chai as promised? It's been around for like a year and a half, 2 years or more.
From Chai?
Yeah.
Honestly, I don't know about that. I'm not sure. But at least from the discussions, nobody has mentioned that, which would be unlikely if that was true. So I don't know. I honestly don't know.
Okay.
Is there a way that you can define the number of assertions from you can pass it done or fail? It's nice that you can define when it should be done and when it should be failed. And the common pitfall I see with all the programming languages that you don't really define the number of assertions, and then you have the concurrency problems or like async problems.
Yeah,
you do that with Jest. You can pass it from the test case, and if it's not met,
I'm not sure I follow that. So you want to somehow dynamically set the number of expected assertions?
Yeah, but I expect a test case to have that predefined.
Oh, so
the tester or developers testing that already defines that in the test case when it's described the test name and the done, the done function, the done callback, and along with that assertion number of assertions. And if it's not defined, fail, it's not a good test case because you didn't define the number of assertions.
So you mean like during a code review or something like that, or automatically somehow? Yeah. Well, as I said, I mean for various historic reasons, no testing in a test is a good thing. It means pass in Jest, right? So you cannot have like a one assertion expected or at least one by default because for some reason you don't want that. Yeah, you should probably take care of that during code reviews, right?
I just wonder if there's like a value.
Yeah, I mean, when writing the documentation for Jest, we decided that we want to put the expect assertions everywhere where we have asynchronous code, or at least at most places, so we kind of show it to people and at least make them look at the documentation, right? But yeah, it's a good practice. Yeah, I'm not sure if it can be tested somehow automatically. I don't know. Yeah. So, I see. So you want some linter that says if you have done, you should also use except assertions?
No, along with the done, there should, when you define the test, there should be, there will be 7 assertions in this test.
Yeah.
So that, I think that's a kind of pitfall. You're reviewing the test. If to test it good, but like you need to read the code a lot to understand the number of assertions and stuff. And like you can, for example, you define that there will be one assertion, which maybe you won't do that, and the test will pass. But it's quite easy to just define, and when you define a test, okay, one means there will be one assertion, and if that's not met, the test will fail anyways.
So, I mean, we can talk about that, but I mean, there can be assertions which you don't want to run through, Okay, Okay, do you have more questions? Okay, no more questions? Cool. So I guess that's probably all, isn't it?
Yes, thanks everybody for coming. Thanks again to Goran, and thanks to the great speakers like Philip and to Robin. And we will have the space here till 10 o'clock. So it will be as well great if you all put back your drinks and so on, that these guys don't have so much work. And we will have the next React and React Native meetup at Lieferando in August. And you're all invited to come. And I wish you all a great evening. I thank you as well for coming, and see you next time. Bye-bye.
Okay, cheers. Thanks.